Hello and welcome to another video from Sustenance and Cover, the only YouTube channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to actually be a video reply to a comment from Jewish Prepper on my video, Why Does Everybody Hate the Jews? Now in the past I have said, and it still holds true, that this is a survivalist YouTube channel. I have no intention of posting videos that have nothing to do with survival, so you may ask, why would I post a video about racism on a channel that's supposed to be about survival? Well, if I was to post a video about how to acquire safe, clean drinking water, nobody would question that. And many survivalist channels will post videos of that nature. However, other subjects that are covered by other people's survivalist YouTube channels are things such as how to rescue your wealth when the economic system collapses, or how to hook up solar panels for when the electrical power grid collapses, or a very popular subject is how to rescue freedom, democracy, and the Constitution when the political system collapses. Now, as for bringing people some measure of comfort and luxury, the monetary system, the power grid, and the political system all have their place. But as far as survival is concerned, none of those things is necessary for survival, and you will not see me post videos about such subjects. However, what is the point of posting a video about acquiring fresh, clean drinking water to somebody who's not going to watch it? So, occasionally I will post videos about racism, greed, exploitation of resources, etc., just so that people can see that something is seriously wrong with our world, it is not being fixed, and it is unsustainable. If I can convince somebody that this is going on, then maybe, just maybe, they'll watch my video about how to acquire clean, safe drinking water. So don't need to send me any comments saying I'm getting off topic here, because I really ain't. Now, let's look at this comment that was posted on my page. Jewish Prepper says, I totally disagree with your opinion on Jews and Zionists. I suggest you read the letter written by Martin Luther King Jr. entitled Letter to an Anti-Zionist Friend, published in the Saturday Review, volume 47, page 76. Now, the only reason somebody would use Martin Luther King to try to convince me that Zionism is okay is because they saw that on my webpage, my favorite video of all time is a speech by Martin Luther King entitled A Time to Break Silence. Now, this video was actually against colonialism. And as I stated in a previous video, colonialism and Zionism are closely intertwined. In fact, they're the same thing. Anytime that the Anglo-American world empire invades a nation, executes, enslaves, and imprisons the population, they give it some kind of cute little name to make it more palatable to the international community. And I'm going to give you 3 examples of this just so you know what I'm talking about. 1. When the Anglo-American world empire invaded North America, they did not call it the North American Genocide. They called it Manifest Destiny. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about Manifest Destiny, I'm envisioning some pioneer just looking off over the plains, imagine all the world of possibility open before him. I would never imagine 12 million Native Americans laying on the ground dead with bullets in their back. Another word that just rolls off the tongue is apartheid. Apartheid. I have no idea what that means. Probably a foreign word. But it sounds a whole lot better than enslavement of the South American or South African people. Because when the Anglo-American world empire felt it was in their best interest to enslave the South African people, they called it apartheid. In the same way, when the Anglo-American world empire determined that it was in their best interest to massacre and remove the Palestinian people, they didn't call it ethnic cleansing, they called it Zionism. Now, these are just 3 examples of the many, many different campaigns against the rest of the world that were given cute little names. And each one of them, interestingly enough, had religious implications. It was always something about bringing Christianity to the godless masses, or like in the case of Zionism, restoring a special holy sacred people to a special holy sacred spot on the map, something like that. Always different names for different events, and in our minds we're supposed to imagine they are different policies, but it's really all the same policy, the policy of colonialism. All right, getting back to this letter, I did look the letter up about 4 days ago. And the only reason I haven't posted a video yet, or up until now, is because it's very difficult to find the truth in the internet sea of lies. And when you do find the truth, the sources it comes from is either anti-Semitic or Zionist. Anti-Semitism is racism against Jews. Zionism is racism against everybody who is not a Jew. I don't hate either one of these groups. I simply hate racism and do not want to quote any racist because that just gives them more power. But I was able to wrangle the truth. I knew from the first day that I read it that it was a fabrication because I've read other things by Martin Luther King, and just reading these other things, I knew he could never write a letter like this. But in my mind, I knew that Martin Luther King was also a minister of Christendom, and many ministers of Christendom actually are Zionists, the same way that many Jews are Zionists. Now, don't send me any hate. I understand not all Christians are Zionists and not all Jews are Zionists. That's why I'm in this trouble to start with. But it is a fact that many are. And so I had to think, what if Martin Luther King actually was a Zionist? Well, it didn't take me long to find out that the letter was published for the first time in 1999, long after Martin Luther King had died. The magazine that it supposedly came from did not have this letter in it, not in that issue, because that issue didn't even exist. But in actuality, it didn't exist anywhere in any of their magazines that they ever published. Also, I was able to find out that the King family was disturbed by this letter and actually denounced it as a falsehood. So understanding that it wasn't in the magazine it was supposed to be in, and that the King family said it was a falsehood, I didn't really feel like I had to go any further. But this is just and you can do all the research yourself. All these different factions in this discussion have just hundreds and hundreds of pages about this letter, but obviously it is a fabrication. Now, there is one instance where the word Zionism was used by Martin Luther King, supposedly, but a young black man at a rally came up to Martin Luther King and said something derogatory about the Zionists. Martin Luther King said, "You shouldn't speak bad about the Zionists because people don't understand and will think you're talking about the Jews and accuse you of being a racist." So even Martin Luther King recognized that Zionists and Jews are two separate groups. All right, let's get back to the next comment from Jewish Prepper. It says here, additionally, I suggest you check your historic facts. The Jews were the only nation to ever recognize Israel as their country, and for thousands of years prayed 3 times a day to return to their capital city, Jerusalem. Jerusalem and Israel are mentioned numerous times in the Bible and not once in the Quran. Finally, the largest Jewish population today is in the land of Israel. Please check your facts. Well, I have to say you're wrong about that only the Jews recognize Israel as their home, and I do believe there are several million, yes, that's right, I said million Palestinians living in refugee camps and internment camps who would certainly argue with the fact that they didn't think it was their homeland. These people have been turned out with nowhere to go. No nation will take them in, and the places where they are staying, they're not even allowed to practice their vocation. Many of them went to Lebanon and are in refugee camps there, and there are actually laws in Lebanon that say that no refugee can practice medicine or law or own property. I mean, their lives are destroyed by this Zionism. And the next part about how the largest Jewish population today is in the land of Israel. I never said that the largest population was not in the land of Israel. What I said was that the majority, the vast majority of Jews live outside of Israel. And even the Zionists recognize this. If you look at all the figures, most people say that many, many, many more times Jews live outside of Israel. The Zionists say that, was it 58% live outside of Israel? But in any case, it is the majority. And so I didn't make any mistakes when I said that. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because knowledge is power. That being said, I also have to admit that militarism is power, deception is power, and greed is power. And the proof is in the pudding. Years ago, the Zionists approached Mahatma Gandhi, and they asked him to take a stand for Israel, or for the Jews taking over Israel. And not only did he refuse, but he actually published a scathing letter calling the Zionists war criminals and saying that they should be brought up on charges of crimes against humanity. Shortly thereafter, Mahatma Gandhi was gunned down. Later, John F. Kennedy made a speech saying that he was going to expose those who were taking power over America, speaking of the Zionists. Shortly thereafter, he was gunned down. And earlier, when I was talking about that speech that Martin Luther King gave, called "A Time to Break Silence Against Colonialism," most who are in the human rights movement recognize that this speech is what got Martin Luther King gunned down. So even though knowledge is power, it has always been conquered by militarism, deception, and greed. That being said, I have to tell you, my prayer for right now is that once people see the reason for the collapse as being militarism, deception, and greed, maybe when this is all over, people will change their way of living, and then knowledge will be the thing that causes people to survive. All right, let's get back to the next comment. The next comment says, "I will be sending you a video response shortly. I hope you post it." No, Jewish Prepper, I will not be posting that video. The very first video I ever made on this YouTube channel explained that I would not allow people to turn my YouTube channel into a forum for lies, hatred, racism, false science, things of that nature. This is a survivalist channel, and I don't feel that it's right to have even 1 second of video material on my webpage to distract people from the important job of learning everything they can to survive. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.